And let's talk about alcohol. Let's talk about alcohol addiction. Let's talk about alcohol addiction in the young, shall we? Jack Mackey is a Kent musician, and he's talked about his alcohol addiction in a new book, and the book is called Delirium. And I'm delighted to say that Jack's with us this morning. Morning, Jack. How are you doing?
Good morning, mate. Yeah, I'm not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thank you so much for taking time out and having a chat with us today. Tell us about your story. I know you've put your story in the book, but tell us your story. What happened? When did it start? And when did you realise that there was a problem?
Sure. Well, yeah, it basically started around sort of 2014 when the book's set. And I was kind of like a social drinker, and I'm a musician also as well, so I did a lot of gigs and stuff. And I slipped into alcohol addiction just purely because I didn't know anything about it, really. So I was kind of drinking a lot socially, and then it became one of these things where I was like, why is everyone not doing this every day? It feels great. So it went from that, and then before I knew it, I was sort of drinking every day. And then when I tried to stop, I had a really bad seizure and was rushed to hospital, where they told me that I was alcohol dependent, basically.
Was that a shock to you?
It was, just purely because, growing up, we're told that alcohol is addictive, but we're not told about the fact that you can become bodily dependent and what happens when you are bodily dependent. To come away from the hospital and the doctors having to tell my mum and my gran that if I don't drink as much as I have been drinking, then I can have serious withdrawals and delirium tremens, which in the wrong environment can kill you. So it was a very strange realisation.
If you didn't realise it, did people around you realise? Like, not just family, but, mates that you're hanging out with?
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought I was hitting it a bit hard. But again, none of my friends, none of my family knew about that side of alcohol addiction. We just didn't. I think they all thought, I was always kind of like the life and soul of the party, but I think a lot of people were shocked, as well as I was, when I found out I was dependent on it, because none of us knew that side of it at all.
It's really interesting because it's the old phrase, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But if you're going out gigging all the time, you're hanging out with musos, you're going to bars and to clubs and to things like that. I suppose it's part of your work. It's part of your environment, isn't it? And
yeah.
And if it's happening day in, day out, these things can creep up on you.
Yeah, I mean, when you go to, certainly back then when I did gigs and stuff, it's usually free drink and stuff. So it was a way of, since being a young boy, since the earliest I can remember, I've always struggled with my anxiety, seriously bad since a really young age. So for me, the drink was like a crutch that I could lean on as well. When I was out or when I was gigging or anything like that, it was like for me, in my head, it was like a fix for social anxiety. But of course, I come to realise that, drink does actually triple your anxiety in the long run. And for me, it just kind of went from like dealing with my anxiety and my mental health with drink, just kind of, slipped me into full-blown addiction, basically.
Yeah, it's Dutch courage. It's the bravery beer. It's it's described as many other ways, and you kind of put on this kind of false personality to the outside world. But what's going on inside, that doesn't go away. It's just being delayed.
That's exactly it. And one thing they sort of taught me in rehab was, when you basically stop aging mentally from the moment you're in addiction, because you just can't address anything. So when I started drinking, when I was really dependent, I was around 22. So it took me years to sort of grow up mentally and actually get to a point where I thought, okay, no, this has to stop, like, completely. And it is, like you say, it's the sort of, millions of people all around the world drink, and I'm not like one of these people that is telling people they shouldn't drink. That's not it. I just want people to be aware of the dangers that can happen if you find yourself addicted, like I did, whether it's accidentally or whether it's just because you're an addict,
And finding that help, because there is help out there. It's finding it though sometimes, isn't it? Because you were helped by the Kenward Trust, and we're going to talk to Penny in just a second or two. But how important was it? Or how tricky was it? Finding an avenue of help, and then how great was it when the Kenward Trust sorted you out, helped you out?
Oh, it was incredible. But with finding help, there are a lot of places you can go if you feel like you have a problem. There is I think CGL now they're called in Tunbridge Wells, which is Change, Grow, Live, and they offer sort of outpatient and inpatient help with detoxing and stuff. Usually the inpatient is if you're in a particularly bad way like I was. But the help, it needs to be sort of worked on in our sort of government and stuff. They need to kind of put more money into alcohol addiction services because there's not many places to go. But when you do finally find the right place, like I did with CGL and with Bridge House in Maidstone and then Kenward Trust, it saved my life completely.
And the book, I suppose, is a good way of raising awareness, not of just general people's battles with alcohol addiction, but of young people's battles as well, because I think sometimes that doesn't get talked about very much.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a huge stigma around alcohol addiction as well. And when you're young, I think the warning signs aren't sort of obvious to people because young people drink a lot anyway, especially this day and age now. So it's just about being aware of it. And, with this book, hopefully I can shed some light on the important issues about sort of relapse and where to go to get help and what to do. And also it shines a lot of light on family struggles because it's never just the addict that's affected, it's always the family as well.
And friends and anyone connected with that person, really, isn't it?
Literally anyone who comes into contact with you, basically.
Yeah. Jack, I appreciate your bravery, and I think you are very brave talking about it, and I think you're doing a great thing, and good luck with the book as well, and thanks for joining us here today. Let's bring in Penny now. Penny Williams, CEO of charity Kenward Trust, who helped Jack. They're based in Yalding. They're an alcohol and drug addiction charity. Penny, good morning. Nice to talk to you. Thank you for spending time with us again today. Jack's story, we're talking about addiction in the young, alcohol addiction in the young. Is it common or is it a relatively rare thing?
Good morning, Steve, and thank you again for having me on the show. Yes, it's unfortunately increasing, I think, particularly with the pandemic and young people being stuck at home, not being out, doing sports, being at school, has led to more mental health issues, which has led to more drinking and drugs, sadly, to escape whatever challenges. And as Jack was saying, it's so easy then to become addicted. A lot of the work that we do in schools with education and early interventions is all about, as Jack says, getting people to understand the long-term risks. We don't preach don't do it because that doesn't work with young people. We believe strongly that it's about education so they can make the right choice.
I suppose, like Jack, it can be quite a shock to realise, perhaps, that you do have that dependency, and it might not be you that realises it. It might be somebody else that points it out to you, or it might be just the people that you hang around with. They might say, "Oh, you're like Jack said, you're hitting it a bit hard at the moment." You have to be able to work it out for yourself, though, don't you? You have to be able to say, oh, okay, no, there is a problem here, and it's only you that can actually do something about it.
Yes, indeed. I mean, that is the absolutely first step, that you recognise that you have a problem and you want to do something about it. Accessing services, as Jack said, GP is often a good way to start. But there are various services where you can get support in the community, or you come to a rehab centre like Kenward Trust. We have a 83% success ratio, but a lot of that is down to individuals coming to us who recognise that they need to change. And I think Jack's point about stigma is really important. When I first joined the charity 7 years ago, raising money as a charity for the work that we do was very challenging. There was lots of wrong perceptions of the people that we help. And I think in a bizarre way, the pandemic has helped change some of those perceptions, that there's a better understanding of how easy it is to become addicted to alcohol and drugs. And that actually then helps people being more honest and recognising and reaching out for the help that they need, rather than hiding away because they're embarrassed.
Yeah, and you need commitment to the programme as well, I suppose, from the person involved. They need to be 100% committed. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste of time, isn't it?
Yes, they do. And I think that's a big part of our sort of percentage success. The few people who do leave us, it's often within the first few weeks, and because they've been persuaded maybe by family, and they're not actually committed. It's a very brave thing to do, to reach out and to accept help from a residential rehab. It changes your environment. You're having to really focus on yourself, and understanding that you're worth recovery. I think that's a big thing for us, that people have to really believe that there are people that love them and they are worth putting that effort into changing and looking after themselves.
And are the programmes, set durations, or are they tailored to each individual person? Because I would imagine that everybody's very different, and how they react to counselling or what have you will be very different, and it'll be very individual. Yeah,
they are person-centric programmes, but in essence, most people stay with us for 12 weeks. That can be extended to 16 or even 24. Depending on the situation and depending on the funding. So yes, it does vary, but it is very person-centric and very focused around trauma. That's really what we tend to be dealing with.
And then once the programme has finished, additional support, I would imagine, is always there. There's always going to be some backup.
Yes, we support people long-term. We also have move-on properties. So many people that come to us are actually homeless or need more time living with other people in recovery to have that support. And we help them with volunteering, and then ultimately, hopefully, going back to communities and employment.
Finally, Penny, if there's someone listening here today, they've realised that they are dependent, or it's even gone further than that, or there's someone in their friend circle or in their family that they're concerned about, is the GP the first port of call?
It's a good place to start. Most GPs know the different places to refer, but also give Kenward Trust a call. We're very happy. We often talk to a lot of relatives, actually, who are looking for that advice of how they can encourage someone to make that first step. So, yes, just start with GP, but also give Kenward Trust a call.
Penny, thank you. Penny Williams there, CEO of Kenward Trust, and Jack Mackey before.